it's great. You have an amazing player. Alexandra is unbelievable, and I think it's great for the Philippines, for the people, for the tennis fans in the Philippines to have such an amazing player. That's
Yes.
really great, and that yeah, we can talk
Yeah.
to each
Before
other.
we get into this story, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, hit that subscribe button right now, because the story we are about to tell you is one of those moments in sports history that people will be talking about for years. This is not hype. This is not exaggeration. What is happening right now with Alexandra Eala is something that the tennis world has genuinely never seen before, and it just reached a whole new level on the other side of the planet in the heart of Austria. So buckle up because we are diving in deep. Let's paint the picture for you. The city of Linz, Austria. Home of the Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open, one of the most respected, longest-running events on the entire WTA calendar. This tournament has been going for 35 years. 35 years of world-class tennis, of champions walking through those doors, of tournament directors who have seen it all and done it all. They have managed everything from Grand Slam champions to rising stars to the full unpredictable drama that professional tennis brings every single time. They thought they had a solid sense of what to expect from each new edition of their beloved event. And then, Alex Eala arrived in their draw. And Linz has not been the same since. Sandra Reichel is the tournament director of the Linz Open. This is a woman who has spent years overseeing one of the most storied clay court events on the WTA Tour. She has navigated every challenge that comes with running a major professional tennis event. She has seen the biggest names in the sport walk through her doors. She is not someone who gets easily impressed. She is not someone who throws around personal welcomes and public statements lightly. And yet, when Alex Eala's name appeared in the Linz Open draw, Reichel did something that the tennis world absolutely needs to pay attention to. She stepped forward publicly, personally, and with genuine, unfiltered enthusiasm to announce to the world exactly what she thought about this young Filipino sensation arriving at her tournament. Reichel called Eala unbelievable. She spoke about what it means for the Philippines, for the people, for the tennis fans of an entire nation to have a player of this caliber representing them on the world stage. She confirmed that Eala would be placed on the biggest court the tournament has available. A deliberate, significant, tell-all decision that says more about the scale of what was expected than any press release ever could. And then she went further. Reichel stated on the record that she herself, personally, would be there to welcome Alex Eala to the tournament. Let that sink in for a moment. The director of a 35-year-old professional tennis event is stepping forward personally to welcome one player. Not issuing a social media post. Not sending a junior PR representative to tick a procedural box. Sandra Reichel herself, welcoming Alexandra Eala to Austria, because she understood that this was a moment that deserved to be treated as exactly that, a moment. For a tournament celebrating its 35th anniversary, that kind of gesture from the person running the entire show is not routine. It is a statement. It is a declaration about what Alex Eala means to professional tennis right now, not just as a competitor, but as a force that rewrites the entire landscape of a tournament the moment she steps into it. And the numbers are the proof. Tickets for Eala's first-round match did not sell well. They did not sell strongly. They did not exceed expectations. They exploded. Reports confirmed that a staggering 90% of the available tickets for that match were snapped up the moment they went on sale. 90%. Virtually the entire stadium, gone in an instant. But here is the detail that takes this story from impressive to absolutely extraordinary. The overwhelming majority of those tickets were not purchased by Austrian locals turning up to support their home tournament. They were purchased by Alex Eala fans. Passionate, organized, borderline relentless Eala fans who have made it their personal mission to flood every stadium she walks into and turn it into a wall of noise that her opponents simply cannot prepare for. Which means that Austrian player Julia Grabher, who had been placed on the opposite side of that net, walked into this tournament expecting the familiar comfort of home. She expected Austrian fans cheering for her in her own country, at her own tournament, fueling her through a tough opening match. Instead, what she found was a stadium that felt like it had been transplanted from Manila. Grab her was effectively the visitor in her own backyard. The home player in name only. The crowd was not there for her. The cameras were not focused on her. The energy in that building was entirely directed at the player standing on the opposite baseline. That is what the Eala effect does. And it has done it again, this time in the middle of Europe. But to truly understand why this Linz story matters as much as it does, you have to zoom out and look at the broader picture. Because Sandra Reichel is not the first tournament director to react this way to Eala. She is the latest in a growing, undeniable line of directors and organizers who have watched Eala arrive at their event and responded in exactly the same fashion. With open arms, with the biggest stages they have, and with a level of personal acknowledgement and enthusiasm that professional tennis rarely extends to a single player. Cast your minds back to Indian Wells earlier this year. The BNP Paribas Open, one of the most prestigious tournaments in the entire sport, often called the Fifth Grand Slam, hosted at a facility that seats 16,000 people in its main stadium. Tournament director Tommy Haas, a former world number 2, a man who has seen some of the greatest matches and the greatest atmospheres the sport has to offer, stepped forward to talk about what Eala brought to his event. Haas admitted openly that he had never seen the 16,000-seat stadium one-packed with the kind of fans that showed up to see Eala. He confirmed that the energy she brought with her, the Filipino fans who traveled in their thousands to California's desert, the sheer noise and passion and devotion that surrounded every single one of her matches, was something he had never witnessed at Indian Wells before. In the sport's own words, record crowds, every single day. And if you want to talk about the kind of commercial impact that Eala creates, consider this. A tournament social media post, a simple day-in-the-life video featuring Eala, became the most watched piece of content on the official BNP Paribas Open YouTube channel for the entire 2026 edition of the tournament. Not a highlights reel of a Grand Slam champion. Not a promo featuring world number 1 players. A video about Eala, the player the sport only recently learned to spell correctly. That is the level of attention this woman commands, and organizers from California to Austria are all waking up to that reality at the same time. Then came Miami. James Blake, one of the most respected figures in American tennis, a former world number 4, now the tournament director of the Miami Open, made the bold and decisive call to place Eala on center court, the most iconic and prestigious stage his tournament has to offer. Blake was not making that call based on a hunch. He made it because he had seen what happened when Eala was placed on smaller courts at the 2025 edition of his own tournament, when organizers initially underestimated the scale of her fanbase and had to scramble to deal with the consequences. Blake learned his lesson. He corrected course. And for the 2026 Miami Open, he made sure that Eala was going to be given a stage that matched what she was actually bringing to the building. Haas in Indian Wells. Blake in Miami. Reichel in Linz. 3 different directors, 3 different tournaments, 3 different countries. All arriving at the same conclusion. When Eala comes to your event, you respond in kind. You give her your biggest court. You welcome her personally. And you watch your tournament transform in ways you were not expecting. Now, here is what separates Eala from being simply a marketing phenomenon. What separates her from being a fascinating story about a player with devoted fans and incredible social media numbers. The tennis is matching the hype. Completely. Emphatically. Without question. Because Eala is not just filling stadiums. She is winning matches. She is making deep runs. She is producing results that belong at the very top of the conversation in women's tennis right now. Let us run through what this woman has done in 2026 alone. She reached the semifinals of the ASB Classic at the start of the year. She made quarterfinal runs in Manila, Abu Dhabi, and Dubai, where she sold out every single one of her matches. She reached the round of 16 at Indian Wells, beating Diana Yastremska in a grueling 2-hour and 43-minute battle before Coco Gauff retired from their match. She made it through to the round of 16 at the Miami Open. And now in Linz, she went out onto clay, a surface she was only beginning to make her own, and she dismissed home favorite Julia Grab her 6-4, 6-3, without fuss, without drama, with the cold efficiency of a player who knows exactly who she is and exactly what she is capable of. And the result that underpins all of this. The result that gave her fanbase rocket fuel and announced to the entire tennis world that this was not a story going away anytime soon. The victory over Coco Gauff. Gauff is not just a highly ranked player. She is one of the most recognizable names in the entire sport. She is a Grand Slam champion with a global profile and a massive fan base of her own. And Eala beat her. On a big stage, in front of a massive crowd, delivering the kind of performance that sent a shockwave through the sport. That win told every player on the WTA Tour, every seeded player, every established name, every champion who had been watching from a distance, that this Filipino player was not going away. She was not a temporary novelty. She was a genuine threat. Jessica Pegula, one of the most experienced players on the WTA Tour, gave an account of what it feels like to face Eala at a tournament that told its own story. Pegula is not a player who rattles easily. She has played packed stadiums throughout her career. She has performed under pressure at the biggest events in the sport. But she said openly that what she experienced when facing Eala was unlike anything she had encountered anywhere else. The fans were not just watching. They were living every single point right alongside Eala. Every winner, every rally, every exchange. The crowd reacted with an intensity and passion that Pegula said she had simply never felt at that level before. It did not matter whether it was the Australian Open, Dubai, or Miami. Wherever Eala goes, that energy follows, and it follows at a scale that most players never encounter across an entire career. Now that energy has come to Linz. It came to Julia Grabher, a player who has spent years building her professional career, who received her very first WTA Tour wildcard at this same Linz event back in 2019, who has worked her way up through ITF titles and challenger victories to establish herself as a professional competitor. She had every reason to expect that playing at home, in front of home fans, on the courts she knows well, at the tournament that gave her her first professional opportunity, would give her every possible advantage. Instead, she got the Eala effect at full volume. She walked onto that court to the sound of a stadium that had been filled by Filipino fans who traveled to Austria specifically to watch one player, and that player was not Julia Grabher. The psychological weight of that situation is something that cannot be overstated. And the result reflected it. Eala dispatched Grabher 6-4, 6-3. Composed. Clinical. Authoritative. In someone else's backyard, surrounded by a crowd that had traveled across Europe for the player on the other side of the net, Eala went about her business and got it done. She earned over €15,000 for that single performance. She picked up valuable ranking points to fuel her climb back up the WTA ladder. And she moved forward into the next round, continuing a season that has already redefined what it means to be a globally compelling force in professional tennis. Because what Linz did was confirm something that Indian Wells hinted at and Miami reinforced. The Eala effect is not a temporary phenomenon tied to a specific tournament or a specific region. It does not require a large Filipino diaspora in the immediate vicinity, though the diaspora is always there and always magnificent. It does not depend on Eala being seeded highly or being the favorite on paper. It travels. It moves. It arrives wherever Eala arrives. And it transforms the environment completely. In California, in Florida, and now in Austria, at a clay court tournament celebrating its 35th birthday that has never experienced anything quite like this in its entire history. There is a moment from this whole Linz story that deserves to be remembered long after the tournament has concluded, long after the trophy has been lifted and the rankings have been updated. It is the image of Sandra Reichel, a woman with 3.5 decades of experience running this event, who has welcomed champions and legends and rising stars through those doors for the entirety of her professional life, stepping forward on the record to say that Alexandra Eala's arrival was something special. Something worth acknowledging personally. Something worth coming out publicly to celebrate. That moment tells you everything. Not just about how big Eala has become in the sport of tennis, but about how the sport of tennis itself is recognizing what she represents. This is a 20-year-old player from the Philippines, a country that had never produced a player in the top 100 of the WTA rankings before Eala got there. A country where, as one veteran sports journalist put it, the nation has been hungry for the next great international athletic hero, the kind whose matches make life stop and make everyone watch. Eala is that person. And the tennis world, from California to Miami to the Austrian Alps, is responding to her the way that all the best sports stories demand. With open doors, packed stadiums, the biggest courts available, and personal welcomes from the people running the show. The Linz chapter of the Eala story is one of the most compelling yet. A tournament director personally stepping forward for one player. A stadium sold out in an instant, overwhelmingly by fans who flew across Europe to be there. An Austrian player made to feel like a visitor in her own tournament. And a young Filipino player walking onto clay under those conditions and delivering a clean, professional, authoritative win. 6-4, 6-3. In someone else's backyard. Business as usual for Alexandra Eala. The clay season is just getting started. Stuttgart is next. Then Madrid. Bigger stages, tougher draws, deeper fields. And the Eala effect will travel with her to every single one of them, just as it traveled to Indian Wells, just as it traveled to Miami, just as it just turned Linz, Austria upside down in the most beautiful way imaginable. Sandra Reichel said it best when she described Eala as unbelievable and welcomed a player she called someone who will own the future. After everything we have seen across the season, after Indian Wells and Miami and now Linz, after the sold-out stadiums and the personal welcomes and the record crowds and the 6-4, 6-3 dismissals of home favorites in front of opposition crowds, it is very difficult to argue with her. The future of women's tennis has a name, a face, a Filipino flag on her chest, and a fan base that will follow her to the ends of the earth. And right now, in 2026, she is making the entire sport feel alive in a way it has not felt in a very long time. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Eala can go all the way at a major clay court event this season? Can she carry this form into Stuttgart and Madrid and make the kind of run that puts her name firmly in the Grand Slam conversation? And does Sandra Reichel's personal welcome and those 90% ticket sales tell you everything you need to know about just how massive the Eala effect has truly become? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. We read every single one and we want to know what you think. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button right now. It helps this channel more than you know. Share this video with every tennis fan and every Filipino you know, because this story deserves to be heard everywhere. And if you are not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this Eala story is moving fast, it is moving loudly, and it is absolutely not slowing